All right, guys, I'm going to show you how to rebuild these T-pins here. So, first thing I did, made a block. All right, we can mount this on here. Hold it down, don't have any issues, not clamping on anything on here. I used to have a special vise that I kind of just clamped on this here, but I found this works a lot better. Shouldn't have to clamp anything in a vise at all. You should be able to mount everything off of this block. I just used 1x1. And I pretty much just milled it down, drilled a couple holes in it. You can grind them, whatever you need to do. I would suggest doing something like that instead of trying to lock it in. By grabbing a hold of this, it'll scar the crap out of the aluminum on this. So, a couple things I want to go over before we start taking it apart. This is what you got inside there. You got your two shafts. There's just a regular needle bearing in here. Looks like that. And there's a thrust bearing up top, comes in one piece. With luck, and out of all these I've taken apart so far, all but one of these bottom bearings come out in one piece. Yeah. So when this happens, you pretty much got to Dremel the outside of that bearing. It'll pretty much leave just a real thin layer of this in there. I don't know any way. The easiest thing for me to do is just run a Dremel in there, cut it, pops right out, no problem. Typically, like I said, all the ones I've taken apart, I had one today blow up on me and didn't come apart right. So the other ones usually come out pretty easy. So holding these shafts together, there's a, behind this grease fitting here, you have an access hole that goes through here. You get a roll pin, holds these two shafts together. What you gotta do is you gotta drive them out. I've got an 1/8 inch punch. This thing is actually drilled in there at an angle. That's because it's backwards. This gets drove out straight with the axle shaft, not straight with the housing. So you got to remember that. If you drive it 180 out, you're going to drive it like that, and it's going to actually push that into this housing in here instead of going straight down into the hollow backside of that axle shaft. So that's pretty important, and I'll show you how to, I'll tell you how to anyway. Make sure you got that straight. So I'm gonna put this in here, get this set up. This is actually the 4th time that I've tried taking this video, and last time I was on point. I didn't forget anything, and that damn bearing come apart, so I didn't want to have to fight with that and show you guys all that crap. So I bolt these down when I put them in here. That way there's nothing, no chance of these bolts coming out and me dropping it, especially when I'm working on people's crap. You know, my stuff's a little different. I'm a little rougher on it, but when somebody's paying me to work on this stuff, I take a little bit more time, take a little bit more care on it. My plan is to get you guys to watch this video so you can do them yourselves. I'll be honest with you, I really don't like rebuilding these for people. Just take that grease fitting out there. That gives you access to this back hole. The reason I don't like doing these for people is they can lead into a lot of time. I think sets the other day, I can't remember what I had. I probably had between 6 and 8 hours in it. I had to do a little bit of machining. We ran into some issues with some of the shafts and stuff. You know, it just gets really timely, and I've got a lot of stuff going on in the shop here. I'm trying to get all these products developed and out the door. Really trying to get a lot of things going for you guys, but wrenching on stuff like this kind of puts me behind. I try doing them on Saturdays or Sundays. That way I don't have people coming in. I can just get in here and get them done. So they just wind up taking more time, and you guys don't want to pay me for that much time. So when you got this hole in here, you pretty much, I clean it out using my punch. I get the grease out, and you kind of scratch around in there. This hole is always drilled straight through when these are this way, if that makes sense. So they're opposite of these holes. They go like that, always. So you can tell if it's 180 out. If it's right, you can kind of see that roll pin in there. It'll be centered in there, okay? If you're 180 out, it'll be more towards the bottom, the side without the thrust bearing. And it's pretty easy to tell. It's off enough that you can tell. So The hard part is sometimes is seeing down in there. I like to make really sure that I've got it right. If not, when you drive it down in there, it gets stuck. A lot of times you kind of got to just drive it and drive it and drive it just to get it to do something. Winds up bending the roll pin, winds up scratching crap up. It's just a pain. You really got to make sure that you get them in there right. I'll take something in there, kind of turn it around so I can see it. Yeah, I can see it better now. So I see my holes all set. I got to spin around 180. Easy enough. Don't take a whole lot. Drive this through. I find that I typically start it on there, and if I put it over here against the edge, that's usually about the angle that it takes. So it's through. Once it drops through, it goes into the recess inside that axle shaft. We'll get it out when we clean everything apart. Before I take these apart, I like taking these aluminum spacers out. You can do them first even. Sometimes these things are better to get out of there. They should push out pretty easy. I use my same punch. I just get down in there, I find that center, and I tap real light. If it doesn't go, I don't do it. So go ahead and tap that one out. I usually just flip my punch over, tap the other one out real quick. In the case that they don't come out real easy, try one side, spin it around, do the other side. If neither side seems like they're coming out by punching them out, then what I will do is I will grab 2 channel locks. I'm not going to grab a hold of these because I don't want to mark them up. And I'll go against each other. I'll grab them and I'll twist back and forth and I'll try pulling one out. One or the other will go. I promise you. It kind of sucks when you do that because you wind up scratching these up. I probably got some in here somewhere. Yeah, see these here, they've been scarred up. It's real easy for me to fix that on the lathe. For you guys that don't have a lathe, I'll tell you a little trick. What you can do is just get the right size bolt. These will be 7/16 for these, you know, and you can just put them in there, put a couple of them on there, and then snug a bolt down, leave enough room down here that you can get a drill on it. Lightly put it in a drill, get some sandpaper or something, spin that in a drill, holding it with sandpaper over top of that, and you'll actually turn it down on the OD to get them the scarring out of it. That's just hillbilly mill, so it'll work. If not, I got them too if you want new ones. So try driving these out. That one didn't want to come too easy, so I usually try both sides a little bit. See, that one finally went. Don't just hit one side of this either when you're in there. Tap that side a little bit, then try tapping that side a little bit. Usually they come out pretty easy. Nothing on these should be really that forceful to take them out. Once you get these apart, I keep track on other people's stuff, which shaft come out of what. I don't on mine because I shim them. I'll shim these too, but I just don't, in case somebody marks theirs, I don't want them to come back and say, well, why'd you change this shaft? So I will keep this shaft with this one since it's not mine. Steph's here. I'm making a video.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. Steph came in. So on these, they pretty much just got a clip in here. Press them out from the back side. Pretty easy. Both of them are the same. Just take that clip out. They'll come apart. So for the bearings, I just use a cheap Harbor Freight, whatever. I think it's come off eBay. Blind bearing puller. This one's been used a lot. I do the bottom bearings first. They're usually a lot harder. They're the ones that are going to give you problems if you have any problem. So what you do with these is you slide them in. You can feel it sliding on a needle bearing. I go just past the needle bearing, then I press down, or you can even start like that. you'll feel it click in. What you want to do is you want to catch on the back side of those needles. You don't want to go in too far. If you go in too far, you'll get the main housing, you'll catch it, and you're not catching the bearing. So tighten this up. I try and make these pretty snug just because this thing's kind of old, beat up, wore out. A lot of these spindles have a little wear ring that get recessed in the top of these. This must be an older set. They don't have it. Basically, it keeps this edge from wearing down on just the aluminum here and getting into the seal. It gives, I don't know what they were made out of. I'm sure they were just hardened steel. But these don't have them. If they do, it usually comes out with the bearing. You'll have to knock it off there. I put them right back in right away. That way it's made for that set. That way there's no issues with one being loose, having to drive one in or anything. So to get these out, you gotta heat them up. That's the only way you'll get them out. If you don't heat them up, you'll just definitely blow that bearing apart. It does not work out very well. It takes a little bit longer to heat this side up than the other side, so I usually try to start with this one. Excuse me. By the time I get done pulling this bearing and I get set back up to pull that one out, I usually don't have to heat it anymore. It'll come out pretty easy. Heat seems to transfer up to it just about perfect. I leave the seal in there. I don't get it hot enough to hurt the seal. I always replace them anyway, so you can keep them if you want. There's a little bit better way to take them out, I think, than trying to pry them out with a screwdriver. I try to put more heat to it than force with the slide hammer. It doesn't come out right away. I'll put a little bit more heat on it. I really don't think this little torch is going to do any kind of damage. I don't care if it sat there and held it all day. I don't think it'll get it hot enough to do anything. I can see grease starting to bubble a little bit out down here on the bottom. Usually that's a good indication that it's getting pretty warm. It's ready to start coming apart. Sometimes you'll hear a little tink or a click. Well, this bearing come apart too. So. I'll have to grind that one out. Again, all you gotta do is just take a Dremel. I usually do it after it's all cleaned up. That way you can see what you got in there a little bit. Take a Dremel in there, grind down that housing of that bearing. Comes out pretty easy. Like I said, these must be really old for whatever reason. Of all the spindles I took apart today, I didn't have any problems until I got to this last set. So same thing on this. Put it in, get it on them needle bearings. You can feel when it gets past them. It should be warm enough to just pull this out, I bet. Yeah. This one usually comes out a lot easier. You can see. Pretty much just pulled on the back side of that. I actually tried going inside and getting on the needles. A lot of times this little clip, these are a lot stronger bearings than them other ones. I'll take this apart and kind of show you what your goal is with the other ones. We'll just hold it on here anyway. Be easier. I try catching it right in there. Right on, there you go. Right inside them bearings or just inside there. You don't really, on these ones, I don't like catching them on the outside because it doesn't seem like the flange on these is quite big enough to get out and get that, and it doesn't pull it very well. So it usually winds up pulling right about in there. So what I'll do now is I'll take them in there, I'll clean them all up. Don't forget that that roll pin is down in there. I usually just keep an eye on them. I get all the grease out. I'll clean these out in the parts cleaner, then I'll take the air gun and try to blow the grease out from the void that's up inside these shafts. The inside of this is hollow, just a little ways. I'll take the air gun and blow the grease out of it, and usually that's when that roll pin comes out. Just keep in mind, you need to keep that roll pin because it's got to go back in. So I'll get all this stuff cleaned up and I'll make more video.